Hello everyone. My name is Art Russell. Welcome to my channel. The wedge of understanding that I'm referring to in this video has nothing to do with human knowledge. It's not about knowing how to change a flat tire or get a university degree or manage a successful company. It's about wisdom and knowing our true nature. Knowing this can make a world of difference in how we live our apparent life. So let's get into it. In Proverbs chapter 4, verse 7, the following is stated: Wisdom is the principal thing. In all thy getting, get understanding. Understanding of our true self. Now, from the human perspective, we're used to getting relative understanding. What we think is important one day may seem unimportant the next. But knowing our true nature, once again, recognizing our true nature, is the primary goal of our incarnation. I'm going to read a quote from a book entitled Be Who You Are by Jean Klein. I read this same quote in another video recently, but it serves the purpose of this presentation perfectly, so I'm going to read it again. You cannot observe the nature of an object if you are not outside it. You cannot taste salt if your mouth is made of salt. You cannot recognize an egotistic state if you are not outside of this state. Now, another analogy that works for this is if we imagine that we're flying in a plane at great altitude. And we look out the window and all we see is sky. So we have no knowledge of how fast we're actually flying until perhaps that we see a large plane a few thousand feet below us flying in an opposite direction, or we pass through some clouds or see them in the distance, and then we know, oh wow, we really are moving. That's what applies to the perspective of the person. As long as we are so tightly identified with the perspective of the person, excuse me, let's say that's represented by my hands held together like this. We have no choice but to identify with being, that we must be the person. But when our curiosity about our true nature awakens, and that would be the beginning of grace, I would say, there's a slight gap. And this is the wedge of understanding about what we truly are, that we truly are beyond name and form. Now, this information is also related in this book entitled I Am That, which chronicles talks between Sri Nisargadatta Maharaj and seekers who sought his company because they were eager to recognize their true self. Here's the quote from the beginning pages of this book. Discover all that you are not. Body, feelings, thoughts, time, space, this or that, nothing concrete or abstract which you perceive can be you. The very act of perceiving shows that you are not what you perceive. The body, the mind, can be perceived. What is the nature of that which makes perceiving possible? I'd also like to offer a quote from Sri Nisargadatta Maharaj, another quote. very short. To be a person is to be asleep. When we believe, when we assume so wholly that we just are this person, locked into that perspective of the person without any gap, we're unaware of deeper reality of what we truly are. Now, recognition, realization of our true nature is important for many reasons. But I'm going to share two main reasons with you today. Okay, so the first one. When we live our apparent life from the perspective of the person, this leads inevitably to suffering. It's fear-based, in which we've identified with the body-mind, the person, in my case, the Art Russell, and we believe that it has a beginning, and therefore it must have an end. And as the years roll by, we can be greatly afraid of how that end will occur, or just the knowing that this is going to happen. Yes, body minds do die. This is not challenging that at all. Now, when we process life from the perspective of the person, we also take everything that the events of that person's life so personally that it can either lead to great joy or great suffering. Because again, that identification is so tight that everything is going to be experienced very, very intensely. There is desire to chase what we want, we're thinking that it's going to make us happy, or a push to avoid those unpleasant events instead of just letting life flow through us. So this is the dukkha, or suffering, that the historical Buddha was talking about. The truth of the matter is we're all Buddhas already, or Christ consciousness, or Krishna consciousness, our higher nature. It's impossible for us not to be that which we actually are. When we process life events, circumstances from the perspective of person, of spirit, from spirit, events become much lighter. There's a flow in life that we accept more easily. The perspective of the person can be either really, really chasing after and really clutching, like, oh, I really want this, or really resisting, oh, I don't want that. It's only natural, right? That's what persons, that's the way they behave. Spirit is more inclusive, so it doesn't need to micromanage life. Now, the second major point about this, however, is when we awaken to our true nature while incarnate, we can use this knowledge, this understanding of our true nature to our advantage. The law of attraction shares this. When we believe, absolutely assume that we are the person, to acquire anything or to do anything in this life, we believe, of course, that we have to be the doer. We have to work very hard. We have to be a slave to circumstance. We have to achieve, and then that can lead to pride or guilt if something has occurred that we are not comfortable with. From spirit, we realize that this is the waking state and that events, persons, etc., are appearances within consciousness, in much the same way that there are appearances and events within nighttime dreams. So, from the perspective of truth, from truth, where we recognize, know again ourselves as spirit, we realize if we want to experience something, we just impress it into consciousness, into the subconscious, and that it will be expressed as our apparent reality. A quote from Albert Einstein points to this, and you may have heard it, but maybe this will cause you to look at it more deeply. Imagination is everything. It is a preview of life's coming attractions. He was knowing that what we hold in mind, especially with feeling, will be expressed as our apparent reality. Now, a caveat to this, what we fear greatly too, can also be expressed. Again, knowing this, knowing our true nature, having that wedge of understanding, developing that by perhaps through meditation, being quiet, and seeing firsthand that we can witness thoughts, sensations, images, that the body and the mind are both witnessed, can help us know the importance of ruling our mind properly. Because what is impressed into the mind will be expressed. Now, I don't want you to be fearful of this about every passing thought, but what we emotionalize with great feeling tends to be expressed in our apparent reality. Anyway, I hope the information in this video entitled The Wedge of Understanding has been useful to you. When enlightenment occurs and the perspective of the person falls away, where we know ourselves as true self, we process the world in a very different way. The perspective of the person, we believe, because we've been conditioned to believe this, that the world is made of matter. But if you even take the time to do a search using your favorite browser, you'll discover that science has known for many, many years that matter resolves into energy and more energy, smaller and smaller bits of so-called matter which resolve, as I said, into energy. This explains why the law of attraction can be true, is true, and that what we hold in mind from the truth of our being will be expressed as reality. I hope this information has been helpful. I'm looking forward to talking with you again soon. Bye for now.